Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
As Jesus came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what large stones and what large buildings." Then Jesus asked him, "Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down." When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when will this be? And what will be the sign that all these things are about to be accomplished?" Then Jesus began to say to them, "Beware that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and they will lead many astray. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. This must take place, but the end is still to come. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places. There will be famines. This is but the beginning of the birth pangs." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
The congregation, please be seated.
Thank you for the very warm welcome for this evening. I appreciate being here. It's my honor. What large stones and what large buildings? This is something that I thought myself when I traveled to Cambodia. We had gone up to Siem Reap, which is in the northern part of the country, and we went to Angkor Wat, which is the largest temple in the world. And I thought, what big stones and what buildings and how massive, and how did these people build these things? Because the stones came from miles and miles away, and they had to be carved out of mountains to take into and to build the temple. It was amazing. It was breathtaking. And I'm thinking ahead in 2 months when I'll have the opportunity to travel to Israel, and I'll be standing at the Wailing Wall, which is what was the temple around the destruction time, the second temple. And I am sure as I approach that space, I will look up and think, what big stones and what a big building. But in reading the section of text tonight, I kept thinking, why are the disciples saying this? I mean, they were just in the temple. They had, if you remember from last week, they had just shared the story about the woman and the 2 coins. And then, as the beginning of the gospel says, they come out of the temple. And they look back and they think, what big stones? And I'm amazed by this. It's one of the things I love about the Gospel of Mark. All of the disciples are so, well, in seminary we call them the disciples. They just don't get it. And as a reader and a student and studier, I feel good. I'm sure you probably do. Where you read this and you think, don't you get it? Like, you haven't got a clue. And you seem to know what's going on. And in this particular text, I think what's very interesting for us is to know is that the Gospels were spoken for many, many years. And they weren't written till about 50 to 70 years after the Common Era, after the fall of the temple. So you're sitting and you're reading this with me tonight, and you're hearing the story, and you think, wow, all this gloom and doom that is about to happen. But the people who were actually writing it had some knowledge of what had happened. So it wasn't that they were writing in that present moment, they were reflecting back. And I think that gives me a sense of comfort, because as that passage continues on, it's very full of gloom and doom and worry of what's going to happen. Wars and famines and nations and issues. And I realized that for me, the most important thing is understanding that the temple is completely changed. As we just sang in our welcoming hymn, the world is about to turn. And certainly, Jesus comes out of the temple And for us as Christians and followers of Jesus, that's a huge turn for us. Because we no longer have to go to a building. We have a living God whose stone, whose foundation is so big and yet so small, so cradled within our heart, within our spirits that we have. The amazing thing for me is that our faith is grounded in Jesus and in the resurrection and the hope that we are given in the life that he gave so freely for us, the grace that we receive, that when we come to the communion altar and raise our hands, the gift of salvation and that hope that we have of thanksgiving. We have that living temple. We have a living sanctuary that is in our hearts because as we start looking towards the end of our liturgical year, we turn, after Christ the King, to Advent, to the coming of Jesus, to God with us, to our Emmanuel, who dwells with us, who gives us that hope. Hope when we may not have hope. Hope when we might be lost. The comfort we have is in that hope, and we as followers are given insight into that circle to see just what it's all about, just how following Jesus is so special. This past Wednesday, I had an opportunity to attend an event at my seminary called Empty Bowl. And I'd never been there before, and it was amazing. In one of the rooms, they had tables spread, and local potters came with handmade bowls that you could purchase or take away as part of your admission. And you came into the gathering space for a meal of a soup dinner. And the proceeds from the interfaith community went to care for those people who were either homeless or were on the verge of becoming homeless. And it was a very moving opportunity to see so many people coming in and so committed to giving and caring for community and seeing interfaith come to join, to help each other when they were in need. I stood doling out soup for a while and having conversations with people who were coming and trying to encourage them to try the soups that I had. And I had the honor to stand next to two women who were enmeshed in that community. The woman, Jamie, who stood to my right, when we introduced each other, I asked, well, how are you associated? And she said, I'm an alumni of the program. And I thought, wow, I didn't realize. So I silly said, well, what was your major? And she said, no, I'm a beneficiary of the care that this program provides for those people who have been homeless because I have been homeless. And I said, would you tell me your story? I really want to hear it. And Jamie went on to say that she was an administrator for a local mosque in Philadelphia, and she was the director there. And she ran a lot of the programs at night. And she would, as the end of the evening came, take people to the door, welcome and wish them a good night as they left, and close the door and lock it. And unbeknownst to anybody in that mosque, she was living inside there. The mosque had become her sanctuary and had cared for her. And the proceeds from this organization helped her and many other people get on their feet and be able to care for themselves. And now she's thriving and giving back to the community because she's so grateful for what she had received. And it was an honor to be there with her and to have her share her story. And I felt that living sense of spirit of being in community, as Pastor Sue was talking about, of what you'll go through tomorrow with this ecumenical event and this interfaith event, of really seeing that when we're in community, we are living out our call as Christians, and that we are following the way that we were called, because by Jesus' blood, we were brought in and saved, and we are part of that sanctuary that he so freely gives us. And so the thought I want you to think about, especially coming into this day of Thanksgiving this coming Thursday, is the things that you're thankful for, but what's your foundation? What is that anchor that you have in your life that you hold on to? That sense of feeling a big rock. What grounds you? And I invite you that as you come forward for communion, to take a small stone that I have in one of the clay pots that I took away from the Empty Bowl event this week. And take the stone and keep it with you. Keep it in your pocket or your wallet. Maybe if you have an evening practice or a morning practice of devotion, keep it with you as a sense of a small stone that's part of a big stone. That's the foundation of our faith and a relationship that you have with God. And may that stone remind you that you are beloved and that you are cared for and that God will always be with you. And remember that that's something that can ground you and take you forward in difficult times, because we are blessed with a God that is bigger than stones in a temple. Amen.